Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Burlington. Or I should say buonasera, cari amici. We have a very special show for you tonight. Something that is a little bit out of line of what we normally do, but extremely exciting. We're going to talk about one of the oldest organizations in the town of Burlington. Been around for a long, long time. Well, let me introduce some of the people that are involved, and they can tell you the story probably better than I am. My co-host, Larry Way, is going to be joining me for questions. But our guests here and I'll introduce the senior member first, is Don McGowan, who is the recent past president of the Burlington Sons of Italy. And happy to have you here, Don.
Thank you.
His new replacement, and I say new because he's 38 years old, 30, so anyway, he's a young man. His name is Dan Squarey. He's from Burlington. Of course, we're all from Burlington. And Dan is going to be replacing Don. And we're here to tell you a little bit about the lodge, what we've done, where we come from, how important the lodge has been to the town of Burlington, plans for the future, a little bit of everything with regard to the Sons of Italy. We are, or at least my understanding, and I address my first question to Don here, my understanding is that outside of the Veterans of Foreign Wars and the Knights of Columbus, we are the oldest organization in Burlington.
I think it's the Legion, Pat.
The Legion, yes, I'm sorry. The American Legion.
I believe you're right, but we're the oldest ethnic organization in the country, the Sons of Italy.
Yeah.
The Order Sons of Italy in America. So that tells you how long we've been around, since 1918. Not our particular lodge, but the national organization.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the Sons of Italy came about?
Yeah, basically, back in 1918, there's a gentleman, Dr. Vincent Solaro. He gathered together all the Italian immigrants in New York, and they decided they wanted an organization where immigrants coming from overseas could find friendship and find people like them speaking their language, so they feel at home, so they wouldn't feel so out of place. That's how the organization got started, and propagated through all the various states in the country, and well, the rest is history.
How big are we in the state of Massachusetts or nationally?
Well, I'm not sure how many members there are nationally, but in our particular Grand Lodge, we have over 6,000 members, which is sizable.
Yeah, and how many lodges? We have the Burlington, and please excuse me if I sort of preempt on, because I'm the vice president of this lodge. So we've got, and now I'm the vice president with the new president.
Yeah, we have vice president, past president, current president.
Current president, all
Larry,
presidents.
what are you doing
and a wannabe president.
A guest, I think, for tonight.
You can be a member if you like, Larry.
Yeah.
So
okay, we'll ask
we'll talk at the end of the show.
about membership.
There you go.
how many lodges are there across the state of Massachusetts?
I never counted them, Pat. You know them more than I do. You've been around to many of them when you were the culture chairman.
Yeah. I have visited about 25, but my
there
understanding
must be
is that there's, or at least in the recent past, there were up around 70.
Yeah, I was just going to say 60 to 70. is
60
what we
to
said,
70
yeah.
lodges across the state, to include, I think, 2 in New Hampshire, 1 in Rhode Island, 1 in Maine, or something
Rumford,
like
Maine,
that.
yeah.
And
Connecticut.
they're considered part of Mass
Yes,
Lodges.
they are considered under the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They don't have a Grand Lodge in New Hampshire or Rhode Island, so they belong to us.
Would you permit me to back up a little bit?
Sure.
Sons of Italy, to me, what I knew it as is an all-male group of just Italians, and I'm learning that that's not quite exactly what we're about today. Could you define who we are today? Who is the Sons of Italy? And what about the members? Is it diverse? Are women allowed in?
It's very diverse, and the term sons is not specific to males. It's a biblical sense, the sons of. Sons of God, Sons of whatever. So we have a mixed lodge in Burlington. And most of the lodges under the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts are mixed lodges. There are some that are specific with just women, some with just men. For the most part, they are mixed. Any woman can join, yes. The criteria is that you are either Italian or have Italian blood in your veins, or married to Italian. Because people always ask me, what am I doing in the Sons of Italy with an Irish name? Well,
I was going to get to that.
Yeah. Pat will tell you I have an Italian soul and an Italian heart. And I also have an Italian wife who who told me, we need members. You will join the Sons of Italy. And you will be president. That's how it all came about. But
And Dawn addresses any type of email as brothers and sisters.
yes,
And
I
I
do.
do the same thing. So
So, Dan, could you tell me how you got involved first with Sons of Italy?
okay, it started initially at one of our wine tastings. That's how I got it started. But let me go back first. Both
Please
my
do.
parents were born in Italy, in Parma. That's famous for prosciutto and Parmesan cheese. So that's where my heritage is. But when I got started in the Burlington Sons of Italy, I went to a wine tasting which we hold annually, which will be coming back this year. So we have a wine tasting annually at the American Legion. And I was there and someone had asked me, do you want to join the Sons of Italy? So I said, sure. And that's how it started. From there, no good.
What type of activities does the Sons of Italy do or pursue? Do you have a main function, or is it mainly social? Is it how is it structured? What's the aim or goal or direction or purpose of the Sons of Italy today? Has the purpose changed from welcoming people from Italy?
Well, let me answer that for Dan, because Dan is new to this job as president.
Yeah.
The main goal of the Sons of Italy is the preservation of the culture and the language of Italy. Okay, it's supposed to be a cultural organization. That's how it started. But we're part cultural and part social. But we have Italian classes, which, for instance, anybody out there who's interested in learning Italian, we're having registrations on September 6th. Classes start on September 13th at St. Margaret's School. And we have 6 levels of classes.
So if you get into that, where do they register if they're interested?
Register
in
at
Italian?
St. Margaret's School on September 6th
okay.
from 6 to 8. And that's just one of the things we do toward the goals of the Sons of Italy, is the propagation of the language. And we do teach those things. 6 different levels from beginner to advanced.
How long have we been teaching, and how do we compare with some of the other organizations that are?
Well, I will tell you this, we've been doing it about a little over 20 years. We're the cheapest of all of them. I shouldn't say cheapest, let's say the least expensive. That sounds better.
It does.
We're more thorough. Our instructors are very professional. We have Pat as well, instructor of the advanced class, but I have 2 professors teaching
Very
beginner
good, Pat.
and intermediate. So they're extremely well qualified. Everybody loves them. It's a great class. Now, we have 2 beginner classes, 2 beginning levels, 2 intermediate levels, and 2 advanced levels. I go to the classes just to poke around, make sure the instructors are doing their job. And I hate going into his class because he starts talking to me in Italian all the time. And everybody's laughing. I don't know what he's saying to them.
But your
Where
advanced
have you-
classes, Pat, are
Where
strictly
have
all
you ever
Italian
seen
speaking.
Yeah.
an Italian, a president of an Italian lodge who doesn't speak any Italian? Well, I have to belay that, because he has been learning some phrases in Italian. At our Christmas dinner,
Oh,
he
yes.
did remarkably well in greeting the whole crowd and wishing them well during the meal. Did very, very well, by the way.
Thank you.
So why don't you get to the social aspect, and if there's any other aspects to the organization, do you get into political, or do you get into charitable work? How about some of the other activities, and why is it that somebody would join Sons
Well,
of Italy?
we are into charitable work from different points of view. For instance, we
Good.
we have adopted the New England chapter for homeless veterans. At Christmas
Great.
time, we provide a financial kick to their problems. We give a high school scholarship, $1,000 scholarship every year. In the past, we have collected for instance, as a needy family for Christmas time with gifts. We just do things as required. If someone comes to us with a request for help, we never turn them down. We have been doing those things. So that's the charitable part.
That's
Social
nice.
part, we used to have socials twice a year. We haven't had one this past year, mainly because of transition of the leadership team. Dan will do something about that.
Yep.
And now I just put him on the spot, and under his breath he said,
Oh, yeah.
we also, every year we had a wine tasting, which was, wine tasting, you're supposed to go and sip some wines and leave. But we have so many hors d'oeuvres and food. People come at 6:30 and they don't leave till we close the place up. Isn't that a fact? Have you ever seen anyone leave early?
That's because we offer them a complete meal.
Yeah, I know.
They have hors d'oeuvres, they have pizza, they have hot foods,
Cheese.
cheese
fruit.
and fruit. And so by the time they get to the bottles of wine, a little bit doesn't take. You need a whole glass to accompany the meal.
For instance, Roach Brothers donates a big cheese spread for us, international cheeses, a few $100s worth. It's very elegant. So that was a nice affair we had. And as I say, Dan is
It will be back.
going to be back next year.
Okay, great. And you're going to make sure. Right?
Just because I dropped out doesn't mean everything stops. Dan's very capable. He'll do all those
Oh,
things.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear the charitable nature of the organization. I'm glad to hear you have some fun along the way, too. That'd be enough to make people want to join.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
Yep. I would hope so.
Can you describe a little bit a typical meeting, given that you've had 15 years now with it?
Well, my typical meeting follows a set format. In fact, I was just giving Dan an example of one of mine. We just do the roll call, read off communications, go through old business and new business, and then open it up to people when anybody gets something to say. I have never gavelled anybody down in the 15 years, although there were times I wanted to, but I just let them rant and rave and make their suggestions, and we talk about things. Sometimes everybody agrees, sometimes they don't, but no one ever goes home angry. And we
Okay,
have
good.
coffee and cake afterwards, and a couple of times a year we'll have pizza dinners with our meeting, which is always very popular too. That way I can guarantee everybody's going to show up when there's food. That's the way Italians are. You put food out and they all show up.
And so
We
you,
have-
you
and
check after the welfare of all the members, make sure everyone's doing okay. That's nice, too.
Yes,
Absolutely.
we have a sunshine committee that, even if it's, I think early on we got a little bit more involved with them, but certainly as a group we make sure that we know about them. We do what we can to help them. There are cards at least that are sent out by all the members. So yeah, I was going to ask you, could you talk a little bit about the relationship between our lodge, the Grand Lodge at the state level, and the National Lodge, Supreme Lodge?
And before that, could I ask you to define what a lodge is?
Sure.
Because it's not a building, right?
No, a lodge is just a name.
group,
Yes,
okay.
Our lodge 2223, that's our lodge number. 2223 probably happens to be maybe nationwide. That was the number that was assigned to us. I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know the origin of that, but a lodge is just a group of people. Okay.
A lodge is a group, a
Yeah,
gathering.
basically, yes. And in our lodge, it's a mixed lodge. It's men and women.
Okay. And back to past questions about how many lodges are there, state and nationally?
Well, that's what we said, probably 60 to 70 in this state. I don't know how many Grand Lodges there are nationally.
Yeah. But specifically, how do we respond to our state lodge, the Grand Lodge? In what's the connection between?
Well, the connection between them basically is the fact that they bill me every 3 months for a per capita fee. And that's how we finance the Grand Lodge. All lodges do get a per capita bill based on the number of members. I used to be very involved with the Grand Lodge. I was on various committees. I'm down to just one with the Grand Lodge, and that's the Commission for Social Justice, which is the anti-defamation arm of the Sons of Italy in America. And each year, on the first Sunday in May, we honor 3 different people who have contributed a lot to Italian society in the area of public service, law and order, and education. So we cite
Very
three
nice.
special people. It's quite a nice event. Have a breakfast, and then it's combined with scholarships. We give, how many scholarships do you suppose we give out from the Grand Lodge? Probably about 40 or 50 are given
Yeah.
out at that breakfast.
Yeah, and we here in our lodge do what with regard to scholarships?
Well, we have one that's from the lodge, and there's another one I provide, so we have 2 of our own here.
And we have been doing that since
Oh, God, before I was president.
1970.
Yeah.
Since 1970, we have been providing
That's
a
nice.
student at Burlington High School with monies, and then Don privately has begun quite a few years ago
Yeah.
contributing his own scholarship money also to a different student at Burlington High School, chosen usually by the guidance staff
Well-
at the high
Well,
school.
the guidance staff will send a list of potential
Yeah,
candidates.
Yes. The
Yeah,
guy, the
we,
guy,
list
we
of potential
recommend,
candidates.
but they make the final decision.
that's right. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the lodge recommends, but the
Guidance
staff,
department,
guidance department has
they,
that
they,
final decision.
they make the final decision.
Okay.
We recommend 3, they pick 2. We recommend 5, they pick 2. And that's been going on since 1970. The other charities, we have a whole bunch of charities
Oh,
that
God.
the Grand Lodge, the
Yes.
state level, contributes to, and we, as an independent lodge, help in many ways. Can you think of some of the?
I'm trying to think of it. John Orion Home is one of them. The Cancer Society, the Flutie Society. What's Doug Flutie's society? Autism Society. There's 5 of them we give money to. At the convention each year, all the lodges kind of line up and go to the treasurer and hand them a check for these charities.
So charity really is a big part of the
It's
lodge.
a big part of
the Sons of Italy.
Sons of Italy, yes. Yes.
And so how do you raise funds?
Well, that's the problem. Up until this year, we used to have socials and the wine tasting. Now, this past year,
Italian classes.
yeah, and Italian classes.
Okay.
But we didn't have a wine tasting this year, but we will be resuming that next year. That raises sufficient funds. The Italian classes, we charge $120 for the 12 weeks, which is a bargain when compared to all the other offerings for other organizations holding classes.
Yeah, that's like about $10 a class.
Yes, a week.
Been
Now,
a long time since it was
I
what
know
the
that.
cost of the.
and our
class
instructors are extremely well qualified. When I have people with doctorate degrees teaching
He's
the
talking
class,
about me.
well, I was referring to
Impressed.
Anna Roca and Greg Stringer, but you too,
Anna Roca is delightful. She is.
She's a professor at
she's a
Salem
professor
State.
at Salem State, and the other gentleman is at Burlington
Stringer.
High School, I think.
Yeah, he teaches everything.
Yeah.
I got him when my original basic instructor had to quit on me a week before basic classes because he was offered a full professorship at Merrimack College.
Wow.
And it was either teach our class for $10 each student per night or take his professors. So anyway, it was a tough find. So I went out recruiting and I found a real capable replacement. So everything's working smoothly. Now, Pat and I went to the Italian consulate last year to meet with
Really?
the director. What was his title? Remember Dominic Stucktecker?
He was head of the educational division of the
Of the
not only
consulate.
for Massachusetts. I think he had part of New York or
Yeah.
some of the other states. I forget.
And he was very impressed with our format and our agenda. He thought we perhaps had the best offering of any other offering around, other than in academia where you're going so many hours a day and paying big bucks. For what we charge, it's probably the best offering there is. And everybody out there wants to learn to speak Italian, this is your chance.
Sicuramente
I think,
dovete studiare.
yeah, I agree with him. I don't know what he said, but I agree with him anyway.
I think that was a Vance class anyway also. Well, let me ask you also this, because it looks like we're very charity focused as an organization. Do we have a religious component to it or aligned with any spiritual belief?
Yes and no. Yes, from the point of view we were trying to arrange a Sunday Mass at St. Margaret's and a breakfast afterwards. We haven't been able to come up with the date where either the kitchen's available or the Mass is available. So that's Pat's taken that kind of project ahead. We haven't come that yet. So that's our connection
Okay,
with
so
the
it's
church.
not a big connection, but it is there.
Yeah. And we hold our classes at St. Margaret, and I'm having a meeting with the pastor on Monday because I think he wants more money for the rental, but they're very accommodating for us. They really bend over backwards for us. It's wonderful.
And do you get involved in political issues?
No,
From time to time?
no,
Any particular issues?
nope.
So no
If it-
stance on the marijuana laws or anything like
No,
that?
no.
We
If
stay
somebody-
out of it entirely?
If somebody brings up something political, we have one older gentleman who would really object. I think one night I must have made a joke about Republicans or Democrats or something. He took exception. That was Joe. Anyway, we don't discuss politics. It's too volatile. Our lodge is there for the preservation and promotion of the Italian culture and language, not for the politics of this country.
Okay, so that's when it might become political, such as the movement to take down statues, including Christopher Columbus, that you might have something to say?
Well, we do have something to say about Christopher Columbus because there's this movement nationally to take Christopher Columbus statues down and change the holiday from October 12th from Columbus
That's right,
Day
that's been
to
going around for a
Indigenous and
couple.
Americans Day. So we've been getting petitions up all around the country, delivering them to legislatures, and we've had a few victories where they backed off. A few places we've lost,
Well, cities like Cambridge and
Cambridge, yeah. And Boston, I guess, is thinking of it too. And that won't sit well with the Italian community in the North End and East Boston, I'll tell you that.
So maybe we're about 1% political.
Yeah, yeah.
Don, can you talk a little bit about your past? Where did you come from in terms of your background in order to prepare yourself for being president for how many years?
15 years.
15 years. What did you do before?
I married an Italian girl.
That was the first
That was my
good
first
thing
mistake.
that happened. And then after that? Or before that?
No, she was a member of the lodge, and she was the treasurer, and they were on a membership drive, and she said, "Why don't you join the lodge?" I said, "Well, I'm not Italian." It's okay. You can join if your spouse is Italian, okay? So you have to have Italian blood in your veins or heritage, but either that or be married to one. Now, you can join the Sons of Italy as a social member, but you don't have any voting rights, and you just come to the meetings and sit down and have your coffee and be quiet. But as the husband of an Italian, I was entitled to join. And shortly a year after that, I was nominated to be vice president for 1 year, so that I would qualify to be president the following year, to fill a gap, fulfill a temporary void. And the term temporary is very
15-year
misleading.
temporary,
Yes.
is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, every year I'd go on a kick and say, "Please, will somebody run for president? I'm tired. Please." They just sat in their hands, and all they would say is, "Oh, no, you're doing a good job. We like it the way it is." Baloney. So finally Dan came along, and he heard me weeping and crying the blues. He says, "I'll give you a break. I'll take over." So he won unanimous vote.
yeah.
That's
no
very
one,
interesting,
I didn't, no one ran against me, so I didn't figure there would be anybody, judging by the amount of people that were trying to take Don's seat in the last. Well, I've only been in the club for 4 years, 5
Yeah.
years. So
And where would you like to take the group, the lodge?
well, right now our membership seems to be dwindling a little bit, so we want to build it back up again.
Is that because we're aging? Is that because we are aging?
Yes. To be frank, yes. The age of our lodge is. My wife is the youngest person in the lodge.
She
could
probably
be.
is.
Probably
Yep.
is.
Yep.
So without revealing my wife.
And you're not much older.
I'm not much older. But we're on the other side of 50. So let's
But
say
that
that.
leads
So
that leads to an obvious question: is do you have some ideas, some plan? Have you thought? And I know that this sort of thing doesn't happen overnight. Have you thought a little bit about what you'd like to do and the direction of the lodge?
well, I've had one meeting that I ran. That was our June meeting. But trying to take a ball and run with it, like things that Don had talked about in years past, we have to come up with ideas to try to rejuvenate the membership. Now we're stuck in a little bit of a quandary because we don't have a building. Now, a lot of young people nowadays, my daughter's 24 years old, they like to go to the social aspect of things, like to go to the Legion. Now we're going to hang out and watch a game or have a drink or whatever it might be. We don't have a building like that. So we have our lodge meetings, and we try to we meet on a specific date, specific time, but we're doing different things. Like we want to bring people in. Someone will bring a guest. Any one of our members can bring a guest to one of our meetings. This is one of our things we talked about in our June meeting. So one of the homework assignments over the summer was to come up with an idea to have people bring a guest with them to one of the meetings. Just sit in on the meeting, see what they think, watch how the meeting flows and what we talk about, what our activities are, what we're planning. Then we had other things we were going to do, have like a potluck dinner. Another thing was doing a potluck dinner, and so to try to generate some type of business. We do put, Dawn has put things in different papers and in church bulletins and things like that, and trying to generate more interest.
So you'll be looking for ways to, or methods or events to hold that would attract new membership. That'd be fun according to their definition of fun for now, as opposed to what we might think needs to be done. There maybe focus a little bit differently, and that's what you want to provide that new focus on, so you can attract the
well, like when I
newer
joined,
crowds.
I went to the wine tasting and said, "Hey, this looks great. And I joined." So if we get 1 or 2 people to join, that's a ball gets rolling. We had a speaker, our lodge, come from the Salem Lodge. It was the woman
Salem,
Jean.
yep.
Yeah, she came, and she took over, and she started really pushing the issue about membership, and she got her nephew, she said, or other kids to join in the 20-something, 30-something range, and they built their attendance back up. When Dawn took over, how many people were in the lodge, Dawn? 100?
No, we didn't.
Not
No,
much.
no. I had grown it to 100.
Grown it to
It
100.
was only a handful, basically.
I've done some research on the lodge, and when we initially started, this goes back to
the 70s.
what was the year? 1970.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1970 is when the lodge was formed. In June of 1970, we had about 100 people, and it grew to well over 150, and I think at one time we were close to 200 members.
Yep.
And it held on and changed when the women in the family, probably around the 1980, 85, when when the economy changed and the women had to go to work. So now you had both of them working, and it was difficult to spend time at night because they had children and whatnot. So it changed the character of the lodge, and we've been fighting that ever since.
Yeah.
And what we're hoping, the focus right now is on the language classes. That's the thing that we're going to sell. And in September, probably, I would suspect Dan is going to be talking. Dawn and Dan, I just get them mixed up sometimes. I think he's going to be talking about some of the ideas that he just put forward, how we can raise some money, because a lot of it hinges on our ability to have a kitty that we can use, something that we can draw on for ideas. What have we done, Dawn, if I can switch back just for a minute, what have we done in the past? What kinds of affairs have we had as money raisers, fundraisers, I should say?
Events.
Well, I wouldn't say just fundraisers. We had things, for instance, mystery rides, which were always nice. People didn't know where they were going until they got there. We had a couple of those. The fundraisers basically have been
Dinner dances.
dinner dances, our wine tasting.
Wine
basically.
tasting, yeah. We've had breakfasts
yes.
in the past.
Yep, those are our big hitters. By the way, before I forget, a couple of things about membership. It started dwindling as people, through normal attrition, older people just died off. And there's nobody younger to take their place. And it goes back to what he was saying, that people don't have time anymore. People are busy and hurried, and they're afraid to make a commitment. And I wish we could overcome that. And I wish people watching tonight on this program who are with an Italian background or just interested in the Sons of Italy would come and join us. build up our lodge, and we'll get back to the glory days.
And they may have ideas they can bring to the table,
Absolutely.
too.
Now,
That
another
way you're thinking outside the box,
Yep.
and just not just us in the lodge. Someone might come up with an idea. I've been to other lodge events. This year, I went to one this summer in Gloucester. My parents were friends of somebody, and it was great.
Yeah.
They got together. They have big events. They have a guy playing Italian music, and they have food, and they play bocce, and so this nice little good time.
The way it used to be, and that's the way it should be. I suspect that in some households we may be competing with a computer.
yeah.
Computer, the internet, it's
Internet.
all different things
Ah,
to compete.
speaking of the computer,
It's affected every aspect of the American way of life.
that's what I wanted to
Today
tell you
it's cell
about.
phone.
With the computer, yeah. With the computer, we have a great website too. If you look at the Grand Lodge, all the different lodges, some have websites. Ours is by far the most informative and best website there is. We've had
agree.
it for years.
And we
Why
have
don't
so
you
much-
tell everybody what the website is?
I will. It's burlingtonsonsofitaly.org. www.burlingtonsonsofitaly, one string of characters.org. Some of the features on that thing is not only is it talk about the structure of our lodge and the reason for being, but if you are interested in Italian newspapers, you can click on that. The real time, the La Stampa and Repubblica, Italian newspapers, today's issue there. If you're going to Italy and you want to make reservations hotel, you can click on one of the options we have. They'll connect you to whatever city you choose and it'll list off all the hotels, and you can make your hotel reservations online. It's a very good interactive website. So and we have a newsletter comes out once a month. It's usually 5-6 pages. It isn't just one little page or a couple blurbs or schedules. I'm told the Grand Lodge, when they have their monthly council meeting, of all the newsletters that come in, they all pass hours around because it's most
Wow.
informative, and it's got a few jokes, it's got recipes, it's got a whole bunch of stuff.
I know this firsthand. My wife took
Yeah,
over the
yeah.
newsletter.
I had a
For the,
con
pa-
her.
for the
yeah.
past year or so, she's been doing it. So.
Yes, yes.
And it's very informative. She spends time and she finds articles and she'll take recipes. She'll bring in jokes. And Dawn did say to me, we have a few members in the lodge that we have to mail it to. This is just very old school. But he said the Grand Lodge likes to get it for that particular reason, like you just stated. They
pass it
want to
around.
pass it around in their meeting and show how. It's nicely done, nicely formatted.
By the way, speaking of the Grand Lodge, we've always had a very close relationship with the president of Massachusetts Grand Lodge. Other lodges, they see the president, he's just a title that's up there. We have had our president, everyone we've ever had, always come to our meetings. They like our meetings. We have the highest percentage of members attending our monthly meetings. If we had, say, 10 members, we'd have 7 show up. If we had 100 members, we'd have 70 show up. We have a very high percentage.
And very consistent.
Yes.
Very, very consistent.
And
Every
they like to
meeting.
they like to come to our meetings too because we have food after the meeting, and there's great camaraderie. And one of the past presidents of the Grand Lodge always showed up at our lodge when they're looking for money. You remember Florence?
Yeah,
We used to see-
Florence.
whenever she'd come in, she was the Grand Lodge president. We always say, "Uh-oh, stand and honor our Grand
I
Lodge
think-
president. Hang on to your wallets."
I think you ought to also give a thank you, a big thank you to the women who provide pastry for every single, or just about every meeting.
Yeah.
There's pastry on the table.
Well, no, they'll
Coffee and pastry.
In the newsletter, Debbie usually puts a list of people, and it'll say bakers for June, bakers for. Usually will ask people at one meeting who's going to bake for the next month.
but
not
it's
necessarily
always,
bake, but
it's
bring
always
something.
there. And
Sure.
good stuff, too.
Let me interrupt you with
Go
this
ahead.
whole thing
Go
about our
ahead.
lodge.
No.
I just want to tell you what Pat used to do. He's directing everything for Dan and I. But when Pat joined the lodge, I wanted to first to decide, we're going to be a cultural organization or a social organization. And I thought the culture was important. So I got Pat and I said, I'd like you to be the culture chairman. So he said, that's a good idea. So for a few years, once a month, he would have a session at the library of somebody from academia talk about different subjects of Italy, whether it be architecture, whether it be food, art, whatever. And this is great.
or historical figures?
Yes. Now, this was going on for a few years. And,
6.5 years.
Free of charge. No charge, open to the public.
Nice.
And we'd always have maybe 30, 40, 50 people show up each one of those things. I don't know why we can hook them in and make them become members and force them to, but we didn't. We just presented. Now, the Grand Lodge, they attended a couple of our cultural presentations, and they decided that'd be good to do for the whole state, so they stole Pat away. So we lost. We don't know how long they have him for Burlington. They have him running around the state doing these things.
You didn't rent them out?
Well, we should have charged some rent, or at least get a break on the per capita fees, but we didn't. So he's talking about us, but he did an awful lot for our lodge.
I didn't realize
It's
It's
that.
extremely
Very nice, very
difficult
good.
to get 70 lodges involved. I had no way of broadcasting to every one of those lodges. I had some terrific speakers from Boston College, from Boston University, from Mass College of Art. I mean, they came from Harvard, every school, and they talked about the very first individual I had. I was from BU, I'll never forget. Didn't know what to expect, I was hoping, but this professor had done some research on polenta. Do you know what polenta is?
Corn.
It's cornmeal.
Cornmeal.
Okay.
It's just a basic, very basic meal for some of the poor Italians, and he
It
came
was a
and
meal
he talked
stretcher
the
years ago.
history.
That's what it
Pardon
was.
me?
Polenta was always designated as a meal stretcher years ago. It
Yeah,
hadn't-
yeah, but today you
Oh, it's
find
gourmet
it in the
now.
supermarkets. Yeah,
Very much so.
You see any meals in top-notch restaurants, and they give you a little sliver of polenta, and they decorate it.
Oh, yeah.
Put a couple of basil leaves around it, and they charge you $3 or $5. At any rate, it was a great experience. But let's get back to Dawn. We're going to get to you. Time's going by here already. A particular moment in the past, humorous or otherwise, that you can recall, or a moment that was perhaps meaningful. Was it something that happened within the lodge, or?
You know, I really can't come up with one particular thing. I just like it when we get together, when the lodge gets together in an activity. For instance, the last few years, we've been having a picnic, call it a picnic, call it a cookout, whatever you
Cookout,
want.
yeah, at the end of June.
It's always on the June 20, 21st, 22nd, whatever the longest day of the year.
Okay.
The transition to summer, over at the Elks in Billerica. And that's pretty well attended with plenty of food. It's really a nice time. And we've been very lucky. We've never had rain. It's always just enough of wind. People say it's windy, but it keeps the mosquitoes out. No problem. I think that's great. I'm just trying to think of all the things we've done, and we've done a lot more than we've talked about.
Some of those mystery rides were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Went to a lot of different places, not knowing.
We went out to Westminster, which was quite a ways out, and I forget the name of the place, but we all had dinner out there. There's all kinds of ducks to feed, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that we did that I wasn't involved in any of the mystery rides. That was before my time, but we did.
This might be something that we want to
Yeah.
try again.
Well, we went to the duck boats.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a day.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
great. We
yeah,
planned
that
a
was
whole.
fun.
We went on the duck boat tour. We met St. Margaret's in the parking
Yeah.
lot. We all got on. We
Had a meal at,
had a meal at Mangiamo's.
Yeah.
Mangiamo's. We had a little. We always do a 50-50 raffle at our monthly meetings. We had a 50-50 raffle that day on the bus.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah. There is, there's no end to the kinds of things that we can do. The fact that the lodge is generally older, it doesn't really mean that, I don't look upon it as being, we're heading to, I look down the line to 2020 is very meaningful for me. That's the celebration of 1/2 century, and I think that's quite an achievement. I really do. And I guess the challenge is your challenge to come up with the kinds of things that can generate some interest, generate some fun. And I think there are things that we can still do. Yeah, they're older. Some of them are older. We got to bring in some new people. Go ahead.
You just
thought
about,
of something.
I just thought of something, yes. And it's a little embarrassing to some people, but see, we used to go to Amesbury players, Every now and then they'd have a musical like Oklahoma or something like that. Beautiful, great dinner. It was just a little theater with a small group of people, but it was always a nice night. We have a bus take everybody out there.
Good.
And there's one woman on a large, little heavy side. And getting back on the bus, she was having trouble getting the first step.
Hefty woman.
And Pat saved the day. He got underneath.
Got behind her and gave her a boost, and she has thanked me these many years for having helped her.
We had so much fun with that one, didn't we? Huh?
Well, you're always there to support people.
Yes, in more ways than one. Now, Pat's been very good too, and we used to take part in the Celebrate Burlington Day, but we quit the last few years because it's too much work, and it's always oppressive heat for no profit. But Pat used to always be there, and but we had a handful of people who'd be doing the work all the time, cooking. Like at our picnic, our cookout, Pat does the grilling. He likes to cook. So Pat's been very supportive of our lodge, and in supportive in more than one way. He never lived that one down.
It's
I don't
a good thing no one took a picture of that.
Everybody said, I
never
wish
hear
we had a
the end of
camera.
it.
Yeah. Anyway.
We've had some fun. There have been some great times in the past. I can think of dinner dances that were very well organized, where we would have, I can remember one, I think we ran close to about 150, 200 people.
Yep.
And after that, and we've had them in Woburn and
Montvale Plaza.
Montvale Plaza. We've used, I can't even remember, but for, I would say probably 10, 12 years, we used to have a dinner dance. As a matter of fact, going way back, we had two, one in the spring and one in the fall.
Right.
And then we cut back to one, and we haven't had one lately, and I think
No, the
we
last
might
one we
be
had
in line
was-
for one.
Yeah. Last one we had was in
Formal,
Billerica, right?
very
Yep,
formal,
yep.
and very, very nice. Well done with decoration and everything. Brought in a top-notch musician, either
We had
a
a band.
or a
When
group.
we went, the band and
Yeah, and an excellent meal, always an excellent meal, whether it was an outside caterer or someone who worked the hall. And it was a good fundraiser.
Yep.
We used to raise, whatever, $700, $800, $900. We'd raffle off baskets and whatnot to make a little extra money. So everything we can. Like everything, as you get a little older, it gets a little bit tougher. So we're hoping that we can perhaps bring in some young people. And I speak that like all of us. I speak it to the people out there, those watching. As a matter of fact, I think it's safe to say that starting in September, on the third Tuesday night, you're welcome to come to the
Thursday,
CO.
Pat. We changed to third Thursday.
Third Thursday, I'm sorry. At the COA here in Burlington, you're welcome to come in, have a cup of coffee, speak to the members, enjoy whatever we have, pizza, pastry, coffee, or whatever, and you'll get a feel for what's going on. And I think you'd be very, very surprised at how well received you'll be. We're a great organization. We do a lot of good. We've been around for a long time. I think that's the big thing that really is surprising.
Well, Dan, I think your charge is an easy one. All we got to do is figure out what are the activities that would attract the younger crowd. Have you thought about bringing in a rap singer? Have you thought
No.
about a night of bowling? I mean, a little bit.
Well,
not it'd be outrageous for us,
No,
but the younger crowd.
You say that there is things that we've been to as a lodge. Most lodges help support each other. So there's definitely things that are out there. For example, we always go every February. It's the Tewksbury Lodge, and they do a comedy night. Absolutely.
Wilmington Lodge.
Great.
Yeah.
It's absolutely top notch. They bring in 3 or 4 comedians, and it's a BYOF, I guess. Bring your own food, and you bring your own food, picky food, whatever you want. Some people bring pizzas, and it's done in February. And I've gone consistently now for 4 straight years. 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do things like that. They have pizza. We had a meatball competition. We had a lasagna competition.
Oh, right. I forgot
Not
about
just
that.
us,
Yeah.
but we
About that too,
yeah.
with other lodges.
Yeah.
And you come in and they rent the hall, and it's a great time. So there are things that we can do or bring back or try. Bocce tournaments, we can do everything. Just have to come up with ideas and generate
a night at
communities.
Fenway Park or a night at the ballpark in Lowell.
Yeah,
It'd still be fun. It's really just getting to know each other.
yeah.
I think the real value that you could give, from what I'm hearing, is you support each other. You follow up with each other. You make sure everyone's doing well. And that'd be important to a lot of people who feel like they're on their own. To have a support group, I think, would be of much value. Add fun on top of that,
Oh yeah.
and that's one heck of an organization. Plus, we're very charity focused, looking for ways to help out the rest of the town. Would you be looking for other things, like other ways to assist the town? Maybe through people helping people, or
We do that.
through, look what could be done for the drug crisis. I mean, have you looked into some of these newer issues?
Selling pumpkins for the, Dan has been involved in
Yeah,
that.
been involved in that
Unloading
too.
the trucks at the St. Mark's Pumpkin Patch.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
last
we are
3 years.
too.
Yeah.
I've been there representing both our lodge and our group, the BRTC.
True, but it wasn't about us tonight, so. But that's good.
So we do get involved in things like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, we get, when somebody special comes around, like the Michael Amonte, I don't know if you're familiar with him. We had a group, we went up to Angelica's a couple of years ago. He's going to be at Everett High School Auditorium in a few weeks, so we'll get a crowd for that.
Where? Everett?
Everett High School.
Oh, no
I
kidding.
sent you a flyer online on that. We went over to Quincy, Ron Delachiesa. You've heard of him on the radio.
Heard of him.
There's a night with him. He was playing all Sinatra stuff and talking about Sinatra. So we had a group went over there. So we get involved in things. When they're made available, I pass the word around the lodge, and certain people say, yeah, I want to go, or I don't want to go.
And could we just go back to an overview? Like, how would you differentiate yourself from Knights of Columbus or Rotary Club, or are we pretty much that same sort of structure?
Well, I don't know what their structure is. I just know what ours is. I know what our goals are.
Okay,
We're a
that's fair.
social outfit that embraces the culture and the language of Italy, that's all. We
Okay.
have our own direction. So we're not copying anybody else.
May have similar functions, but you maintain your own direction.
That's right.
Good.
Like I remember the American Legion, if I go to a meeting there, they're talking about patriotic stuff and veteran stuff. That's their mission. Our mission is what I just said. It's the, like Dr. Solaro said when he formed it.
The Italian
Yeah.
heritage,
Yes.
protecting,
And he
promoting.
made his speech similar to what Dr. Martin Luther King said. He wanted the Italians someday will be judged by their character rather than their nationality or whatever. And paraphrase what King said about judged by your character, not the color of your skin. And that was in his opening speech too. And I think the Italians have come a long way from that. When I was a kid, I grew up in Medford. All my friends were Italian. Their parents didn't speak English. They used to always talk about me to the kids. I'd say, what'd they say? They said, you're a slob, you don't wipe your feet. I mean, things like that. So we kind of resented that stuff, but they've come a long way since then. That's 60, 70 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Italians are a very integral part of American society, and they contribute quite a bit. And I don't know how many people know this, but the Bank of America started out as the Bank of San Francisco, run by the Bank of Italy in San Francisco.
Really?
That was its genesis, yeah.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of things that the Italians can be proud of.
We really don't have like the Italian community living in a area
No,
where they
No.
used to have Italian neighborhoods and
that's right. You don't need more.
different neighborhoods
That's
that
right.
we've
That's
pretty much melded.
Yeah,
I,
that's right.
I did some research with the intention of writing something about when the Italians came, and it was around there were a few families. One that comes to mind was the Seminatori family that was here probably before 1950. And they were located somewhere here in town. Mr. Seminatori had a farm, but there were a few other people. But the big number of Italians that came in was just before 1960 and through 61, 62, 63. I came here with my wife, and I every time I think back to it, I remember I can't help but remember what my mother said when I told her I was coming to Burlington. She said, Burlington, in Italian, she said, that's the frontier. Quella è la frontiera, no? So it was like a new area. But when we came, a lot of Italian families came, and it grew through 1970, and that's when the lodge was formed. There were, and I could give you a list of names of families that you would probably recognize because they were involved in town government. They had businesses in Burlington. They worked in some of the major companies around. A lot of, and some of those families are still here. A lot of them have moved out. I'll give you one simple example. The gentleman who owns now on Route 1 in Saugus, the Prince Pizza House, is that the name of it? Kestelberti.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he was here in town, lived in town, and ultimately moved to the gentleman who started the windows.
J.B.
Bertolami.
Sash and Door.
J.B. Sash and Door.
Bertolami.
Bertolami family was here in
I
Burlington.
think they're still here.
I think they're still
They
here.
live around the
yes,
corner.
yeah. So there's a whole bunch, but it was around 1970, 75 when we really mushroomed, and the membership grew like crazy. And then, as I say, when both husband and wife had to go to work, then it became a little bit more difficult. They just simply didn't have the time, given a family and whatnot. But I think we have a very, very proud tradition. I'm really especially proud of the fact that we've been in Burlington for 47 years, and I'm looking forward to 2020. I really am. And I think that as early as next year,
And Pat, tell the significance of 2020. for the
2020
Sons
will
of
be
Italy.
1/2 century for the Sons of Italy in Burlington. 1/2 century, which is a mark that I think only 2 other organizations that I know of that I mentioned earlier. I was going to say, I think that maybe as early as next year, we should begin to plan some major celebrations for, and set a little kitty aside. We need some money, so we have to raise money for that. We've got a lot to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. And didn't I
yeah.
hear that there was another in 2019? Is that a mark for the Sons of Italy in America? Is that like
2019?
yeah?
I don't think so.
Well, for us, 2020. I don't know.
Well, for Burlington, but how about nationally? How old is the organization?
Well, that started in 1918. I believe.
1918.
Yes.
Okay, so
Oh, I see.
2018
Okay,
would-
19.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that would be 100
event?
years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Any
sure
plans
the
for that,
national
Dan, at this point?
organization has something
I-
for that, yeah. So Dan, start planning.
Stop planning for our. We will. We'll discuss. We'll bring it up in our meeting.
Yeah, that's
Start laying the groundwork now.
Definitely, you bring it up. We should really talk about it.
Right.
Get ideas, and especially begin to put some coins aside so that we can have some money to celebrate with. Look to St. Rocco Feast in Malden as a guide, just for ideas. That's all.
I suggest the first thing you do is form a committee.
Think I'll have luck, Don?
Oh, sure.
Committee
you
of
will.
3.
Yeah. Sure you will.
Dawn, we're getting
I know.
close to the mark. We have a few minutes left already, and I know you want to make a pitch at the end, and I want to give Larry time. But just can you, looking back, how do you feel about what you've accomplished?
Oh, I feel very good about it. When I first took over the lodge, the first meeting I went to, there was only a handful of people showed up. We didn't have a quorum. It had fallen into disrepair, if you will. So I made an inquiry to all the members, why don't you come, and this and that. Answer my questionnaire, and would make a drawing, and somebody would win a prize. I forget what it was, but little by little, people started coming back. And next thing you know, we had a full house. We were just making the meeting interesting and having plans and things going on, and I had all the right people. And when you came along, it was probably about 3 years after that. It was probably it's on its way, yeah. So I feel very good about it. I accomplished a lot. We established a website, the monthly newsletter. I got involved with the Grand Lodge, vice chairman of the Commission for Social Justice, and brought the Grand Lodge used to come to a lot of our meetings. People did. I feel very good about the accomplishments. To tell you the truth, the last year or so, though, I was just getting tired, and I was looking for somebody to replace me. And I kept seeing this guy that just joined not too long ago. I said, he looks like he's easy. So I got to work, and finally he said, yeah, I'll do it. And I said, ooh, good boy. He may hate me for this afterwards, but I don't know. He's in the barrel now.
Well, I'm glad you achieved your objective of,
Yeah, I did.
of finding somebody to carry on.
Yep, I did.
Dan, you talked about the past. Tell us a little bit about what your hopes are for the future.
Well, the hopes are to at least build us back up. We have to start very basic. Just get interest in the lodge first. So once we get people, like we stated before, come to the meetings on Thursday, the third Thursday of every month. See what it's about. Listen to our agenda, what we have planned. Whether it's a wine tasting, whether it's a trip somewhere, whether it's just going to our little dinner we have at Lucia's on the Sunday.
We didn't even mention
Christmas time.
that.
We didn't even
Every
mention that.
Christmas.
Every Christmas,
Very formal dinner at Lucia's in Winchester.
It's very elegant what we
Yep.
do, yeah.
Been doing that for how
They
many
bring a
years?
little- How many years been doing that, Don?
Oh, God.
Must be at least 10 or 12
Oh,
years.
at Lucia's, it's at least that much.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, again, if we get people just to see what it's about, then you just need to get, if everyone, we have 48 members or so now.
I think around that.
But
yeah.
if everyone brings, like
With
Don said earlier,
entertainment.
our monthly meetings, we have a lot of attendance. I could say probably 37
Yeah,
to 38 people come to the meeting.
Yeah.
75, 80% of our members
Yeah.
show up.
So if everyone was to bring somebody,
double,
something.
double the membership.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting
That's-
close. Don, Larry, did you? Oh, we're down to a minute. If you want to make a pitch,
Well, that was kind of my
Out
pitch.
there?
Hopefully that.
I think I would
2
say
minutes.
this for you.
go
that
ahead.
If you want to know what's going on,
give you a
mention
segue.
that website again. Where to go to find out
minutes.
where
Yeah.
the Christmas event is and any other events that
Okay.
might be coming up, might be of interest, speakers you might have.
Okay. Yes, the main thing is our website, which will tell you everything you need to know about the Burlington Sons of Italy, our history, what's going on, offices, battalion classes, etc. It's www.burlingtonsonsofitaly.org. And what we're talking about is our annual Christmas dinner at Lucia's. We have entertainment, a meal that'll just knock your block off, really. It's the lodge usually loses money on that because we have a lot more than we collect. So
And so for all those interested, check the website or show up the third Thursday at the Council of
third
Aging.
Thursday, the Council of Aging at 7 o'clock.
And you'll be looking forward to personally meeting them.
That's right, absolutely.
And things that we do, pay attention if you're in a store locally around town. We might have flyers about Italian classes. We might have flyers about a wine tasting. And if you see it, don't hesitate to come on down.
Yeah, please sign up for for the Italian classes. Again, the registration is September 6th from 6 to 8 at St. Margaret's School, and the classes start the following week. 6 different levels from beginner to advanced, something for everybody.
Grazie molto e voglio dire la stessa cosa ai nostri amici. Venite, per piacere, venite a accompagnarci durante una riunione. Grazie mille volte e ci vediamo.
See, Larry, there he goes with the
I was
Italian.
going to say,
again.
Don, you agree, right?
Buongiorno.
I agree with everything he said.
Buonasera.
Okay, welcome next time. We're
Buonanotte.
gonna be-
Buonanotte.
We hope to be going over some town issues next meeting.
Next
Hope you
meeting,
can join
yes,
us.
excuse me. Go ahead, go ahead.
There's a town meeting coming up, a couple issues. Will be a zoning bylaw review committee establishment. There's been some conflict with that. Selectmen have not been in favor of it. Seems like town meeting passed overwhelmingly. So it's going to be a very interesting town meeting coming up. That and a review of the marijuana laws. Are we going to go along with legalization? So tune in. Next show. Look forward to having you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.